Hey, this is Big Guy DIY Robert coming to you with another video. This is a how-to video. I recently purchased a winch because the current winch I have, it's a recovery winch, 8,000 pound winch. Let me show you what I got. This is an 8,000 pound recovery winch. I had bought this where it can be installed on the receiver of any vehicle with a 2-inch receiver, really. And what I have is this contraption. This goes into receiver my pickup truck. This allows me to have a trailer attached to it. Then I can have my recovery winch up here. I have an extension that can attach to this, so it'll bring my whole ball out another, I think it brings it out another foot, so that way the trailer doesn't interfere with whatever I put in here. This is really a good setup with a utility trailer that I have, and I'll include some pictures on a recovery I just did of a baseball infield groomer where the tire had fallen off the rim, and it's a hydraulic setup, and that vehicle would not move under its own power, so I had to use my winch to winch it back up onto the trailer. So I'll include some pictures and maybe even video is not necessary because it moves so doggone slow, but I'll show you some. I'll include some pictures in this video of me recovering this infield groomer that we use on a baseball field. So what I did is I bought a new winch. I bought this from Tractor Supply. I was trying to buy one because I had a problem with this at the time. My remote wasn't working, and I did not have my handle, the new handle that I ordered, come in yet. So I went out and I bought this. This is from Tractor Supply. I think this was $98. 2,500 pound winch. That's a straight pull, meaning the cable's going from the winch directly to whatever you're pulling. You can always double your pulling power, which with a snatch block. So you go from 2,500 up to 5,000 pounds just by doing one snatch block. So what it is you go from the winch to what you're towing, and you attach the snatch block to that, and then you go back to the winch, and that's how you double your pulling capacity of your winch. And you will see that in the pictures that I'll put in. So the reason why I am buying this is because of weight. I'm going to show you how heavy this sucker is. I have here a digital scale. This will work up to 600 pounds, and I'm going to put this winch, hang this recovery winch off here so you can see how heavy this is. So let me pause this for a moment. So can you see that? 92 pounds 92.60. That's the weight of this 8,000 pound winch. So, what is that? 8 pounds shy of 100 pounds. So when you're moving this sucker from wherever I store it in the house to putting it into the bed of the pickup truck, getting to the location, and then doing switching around of the trailers and the hitches and so forth, and then lifting this thing back up to put it into the receiver, it's a backbreaker. The new winch think it's 8 pounds, 9 pounds. Yeah, it's not an 8,000 pound winch, but still, it's going to be able to do what I need to do, and that's to be able to pick up, say, a snowmobile or an ATV or a UTV, or even this, say, this infield groomer, and recover it onto my trailer. This winch, as it comes with no instructions. Yeah, I said that. It comes with 0 instructions. You have this manual, but this manual is not instructions on how to assemble this. Who else sells a winch that's very similar to this setup is Harbor Freight, which I didn't want to use. I wanted something a little better quality. Granted, they come from the same country of manufacturing, which is China. For US made winches, there's really not a lot out there that's readily available. A lot of this stuff, for some reason, is sold out. So what this video is going to be on is how to assemble this, and I'm going to show you how to put this together, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to make this type of setup where I can install it in the receiver. So in this packaging, you have your hardware, stainless steel hardware, several bags. Quality of the stainless steel. Looking at the back of the bolts, when a bolt is hardened, it will have lines on it, like a grade 8 or a grade 5. Like here. This is a grade 5. See the little speck marks here on each corner? That's representing the hardness of this bolt. I know this is a grade 5. I don't see that on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use this. I'm going to actually go to the hardware store and buy a set of bolts that are a grade 8 and are treated and heat treated. So this to me is junk. Other things that come in the kit are your 2 wire looms here for your battery and to your winch, your hook, your power switch with, it looks like a handlebar setup, because this is for an ATV, so it's going to be set up for an ATV. Your, I forgot what you call this, but people will tell me what it is. Your circuit setup. This is where your wire harness from your battery will go to, and then from your battery to the switch, which also power the motor. Your front part that your cable comes through, and your mounting plate. These bolts are my bolts, and I've added to it because what I'm going to do, if I can find where I put the stock, I went to my local metal guy and I bought 2-inch stock, 1/4-inch thickness, and this is what the mounting plate for the winch will be mounted to, like so. And using my bolts, these are grade 5 bolts to go through. I'm not going to go out and buy grade 8. It's not necessary. 5 will work for this setup. I don't have to weld this to this, and I don't want to, because should I ever bend this, which, knowing me historically, I have a tendency to bend stuff, I want to be able to replace this, and I have other stock where I could fabricate something. If not, then I'll just go to my local metal shop and have them duplicate this in a thicker stock. This here looks like about 3/16, an 1/8 to 3/16. I would switch it to a 1/4-inch stock. So let's get to the assembly of the winch. So first thing I want you to see on here, you can see there is an M here. It's an M minus, and then down here you got an M plus. Now keep moving this around because of the glare of the light. Here you have a B plus and a B minus. So the M stands for motor, the B stands for battery. So it's already attached to this right now. This is your switch. So the next thing we need to attach to this are the cables that will go to your battery. Because remember, B plus, B minus, battery. Looking at these two cables, you question, oh, which one goes to the battery? Which one goes to the motor? This goes to the battery. The reason why, let's open this up. And there's two reasons why I know. The cable on here, well, I guess not. I stand corrected. They're the same size cable. Well, the reason I know this goes to the battery, because see these little booties go right here over the motor. So that's how I know this goes to the motor. So we're going to put this to the side, and we're going to start with the batteries. Now, one thing I didn't buy yet are what the other end will be. Right now it has loops on both ends, so this could be bolted to a battery. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change these ends to be large alligator clips. And then that way, when I have a battery, I can just clip them right onto the positive, negative on the battery. So this is useless. Useless in the sense of the application that I'm going to use this for. The other end we're going to attach. So in DC, which is direct current, we are going to take the nut off. This is a lock washer and your washer off, and we're going to connect our black on here. So black to B minus, washer, lock washer, nut, and then tighten this on. Same for this side. Red goes on B plus, red to red. One thing, see how this is flush on one side and not on the other? You get the same thing with this current one. Flip this around so you get the flush end aiming up and a flush end here aiming down. This will allow you to have more of a stud to attach your wiring to. So flat washer, lock washer, nut. This one here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to switch it. So I got the flush side aiming up, and I'm going to have my flush side aiming down. Let me grab a ratchet and tighten those up. Because they're from China, there's a very high probability that these are metric. And they are. Now I have two very loose wires, as you can see. What I'm going to buy later, something like this but a little larger. It's called a wire loom. What it does, as you can see, these wires are a little thick, but This will give you a general idea. Wire looms are always split. There are solid ones out there, but the split are a little easier to work with. You can get these at any automotive store. They usually come in like, I don't know, 10 or 12 foot sections. Like so. Take electrical tape. And what this electrical tape does, it just helps keep the loom, wire loom, closed. All right. Next, we're going to do our, where did I put that bad boy? Oh, the cable to the motor. Now that I got wire cutters, I can just cut these off. Both ends are the same. Remember to slide your boot on first. Now we got our boot on one end. So remember, you get M minus and M plus. Kind of see it, but this is M plus. M plus means red wire. Here it doesn't matter whether your flat side's up or down because it's only one wire. This I'm not going to make completely tight yet because I'm going to do something different with this setup. All right, so now our wiring's done. So just to reiterate, this is our battery plus, battery minus. So there's our battery plus wire, our battery minus wire. Attached to that, below is our switch. We have our M minus, which is our motor minus, and our motor plus. So motor plus is plus wire, motor M minus is our motor minus wire. Say that 3 times fast. So this is what we're going to do different. Because this is not being installed in a ATV, this is going to be installed just on a plate with the receiver. Plate goes like so. But what do we do with this? That's the question. Well, what I'm going to do is the same thing as I did with the 8,000 pound winch. Is this is going to be mounted on the top here. There is no place really to mount it. I mean, I could mount it like so on the receiver or on the tube. That'll be the plate will be attached to, but that just puts it further back. I want this to be a tight assembly. So I want to mount it here, and to do that, so I went through some of my stock and I found a piece of steel here. At first I found this piece of aluminum, which width-wise would work great. The problem is I have to remember cable clearance on here, and how would I attach this to this? If this was longer by a ½ inch, it would work perfect because I can just put in a screw here and a machine screw, 2 machine screws here to hold it in place. but this is too short. We're going to use this. My width is correct. I already have the first bend in here. All I need to do is cut it across and then bend it on this side. So what I'm going to do next is grab my bandsaw and I'm going to cut this to make this fit. So what I'm looking at is how far down this needs to drop. So I can get a screw through it. Now when doing something like this, if you're not sure exactly how far you want this to drop, cut it long first, because if you cut it too short, now you're screwed. The piece is not useful in a sense. You have to come up another way of securing it. So I'm going to cut it on the long side first and then see how it drops over this to make sure it doesn't interfere. How it drops over this to make sure it doesn't interfere with the cable. Throwing on some gloves and some safety glasses, because after I cut this, I'll have shavings that could cut my hands, and I don't want anything to kick up into my face while cutting this. I'm going to take this to the grinding wheel and get rid of these sharp edges. Does not interfere. So by going back and forth, because my vise is not deep enough to put the metal in completely in here to get the full length, as you can see, by going back and forth, it allows me to get an even bend, plus using the hammer. Now we're going to cut this one off. There we go. So there's our plate. So I know it's going to hang off. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm just looking at which way the least amount of stuff, or the least amount hangs off. So what you just witnessed was a brain idea. I'm going to tack weld this on here. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut it again. Weld this on here, so I'm going to put a weld here, and it doesn't have to be a full bead, just 2 small beads here, and then that way my bolts will come up through here like so to hold this unit in place. And then how this is being held on is I will have 2 screws going into here. So we're going to pause this for now. There's nothing for me to do from a wiring standpoint. Continue on. I'm going to work on this assembly here, and I got to cut this piece to length to how long I want it to stick out. Let's see here. The hole for all receivers is pretty much a standard distance from here, from the face to here. So whether it's on a vehicle, on a tractor, on a Jeep, car, whatever, this is usually a fixed distance. So if my hole's going to be here, I want my length to be here, because I want to double the length. So that's where my cut will be. So we'll come back and show you what I've got accomplished so far. Piece of stock is cut now. Found my center, marked my holes. That'll mount this plate on here. And now it's time to cut this. And then here's the center for the side. That'll be for the as this slides into the receiver, you have the mounting hole here. So let me get this going. This is a countersink bit. We're going to use this on this piece of stock to get rid of the sharp edges from the drilling of the holes on both on this side and this side. When you're drilling holes into metal stock, you just can't go, well, you can depending on the type of equipment you have, but like me, you're working at your home, you just can't go right to the bit size that you need to drill into that metal, especially very thick metal. So what you have to do is you have to do the drilling in steps. So you got to start off with a small bit and work your way up. And the harder the metal is, meaning this steel versus say stainless steel, you got to start off with a very small bit and work your way up in smaller increments, because there's a greater risk of breaking that bit versus this type of steel, which is a softer steel. You can go in larger increments between bits. Like say you grab one bit, you go 2 sizes up. That you would do on a stainless steel. For this, I'm doing 1 bit and I'm going up 4 sizes to the next bit. I'll show you before and after for a countersink. So you can see how sharp the edge is. So there is your after countersink. You see how I've taken the edge off. Now earlier in the video I showed you pictures of me painting this. If you recall, this is the piece that's going to go on top of the winch here. So remember, you got one piece here and another piece here. The reason I painted it is when I weld these together, there's not going to be anything in between to protect the metal from rusting. So I just pre-painted it early. I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours. I put the tape on here because this is my welding area. I need clean metal to weld it. Now I don't have to worry about cleaning this up to run my bead here and here. So now we're all set. So we'll just let this dry for a while. I'll put this by my wood stove, let it heat up, and then that'll be ready. So when we come back, we will be welding these two pieces together. Now, I am far from a professional welder by any chance. I'm definitely your homeowner welder. But this is what it looks like after you do the weld before you grind the weld down. Flux core welder compared to a MIG or even a TIG will never come out smooth. Unless you're like God or something. But I have my wire feed a little too slow. The reason I can say that is because see how this is all burnt through? The wire feed should have been turned up a little more at it on a low side. But we'll grind this down and then get this painted. Get the holes drilled after it's painted and then get it installed here on the top. So I got my plate, it's all drilled, welded, grinded the edges down. So this is how the hole patterns will work. These holes here on the top are going to hold this part, like so. They'll be through bolted, bolts coming up, like so. Hold this plate. You see I got holes here, which I've already threaded them. These are half inch. These are half inch number 12 metal screws, sheet metal screws. These will screw right in here, like so. So if you can see where they are in relation to this beam which goes across, that beam there, my holes are just under it. So they're going to go through just enough to go underneath this beam but not interfere, as you can see, with the cable. And this will be for both sides. So that's how this plate is going to be held on. So all I need to do now is clean this plate up. Then we're going to paint it, prime it first, then paint it. The receiver is also done. I got my holes cut out, so this is where your pin goes in when you're putting this into the hitch. This is the holes here on the top are for the winch plate, like so. So this too needs to be cleaned up and painted. And then I have not thought about where I'm going to put this switch yet. I haven't even opened the bag up. It's a handlebar mounted switch, or at least that's an option. So I don't know, maybe I probably won't mount it anything. Maybe I'll just make a holder that'll hold the switch, so that way I can use the length of the harness, wire harness with the switch attached to it, and I can stand away versus having to be up next to this, pushing a button in and out. In meaning bringing the cable in, out, letting the cable out. We'll just have to see what I do. Maybe I'll fabricate something off, because I will have additional holes on this plate where I can create something to hold that switch, to hold the wire harness, whatever. So next time we come back, we will have these pieces of metal done, painted, and installed on there. We have all the metal cleaned down now, and then wiped it all off with a cloth covered in acetone to get any of the oils off this before we put the primer on. That way we know the primer will definitely adhere to the metal. So next shot will be the primer on it. So I have all my parts done. Spray painted. I probably touch that up, but I'll do it later. So I think we're done getting the parts made, and it's going to be time for assembly. So I already showed you how to put this together. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to mount this onto here with what I've made. One thing I just threw together is this. This will attach the back side here. So it's one of those moments where you gotta think, do I need these or not? This is all metal. It's bolted in the back. Something I'm gonna think about. Meanwhile, I'm gonna take this off and contemplate, do I need something or not? So I think the next time we come back, we'll see this mounted. Oh, I didn't explain what this is. This here is the mount for my switch. And I just took a wing nut, modified it a little on the grinder, and it's not supposed to go on tight. It's just really to hold it in place. That's all it does. And then that way I can take it off whenever I need it. But that's just to hold it. So let me come back to you on what I'm going to do with this piece and what this nut is. So the trouble I had earlier, as you saw in the video, is the bolt on this was hitting this bar. So I went back to the drawing board, or I should say I went back to the hardware store. I bought stainless steel, what they call flat top bolts. As you can see, it's completely flat. So what I did is I drilled the holes larger, and then I countersunk them so these would sink in, and then I did the same for the front. So now we're ready to put this on. So I want it this way. So that goes on like so. Then with the holes that I drilled in the front, right here, will go in. And what it is the tip of this screw. I want it, the way I drilled it is to go just slightly below the center line of this rod. Well, there we go. It's on. not going to move. Now we want to attach motor. We want to attach these two wires to the motor. Save this wire for another project. These are wire strippers, and they self-adjust to the thickness of the wire. And the end of the motor, you got a plus and a minus. So plus is your red, minus is your black. There are no lock washers. This is a lock washer. See how it's split? Doesn't come with lock washers or a nylock nut. So I'm going to add it on there. Then I know this won't come loose. Slide your boot down. Now for the switch, this was the original part on here. And I was just going to place this on here, but what I didn't like was I couldn't put the wing nut on there. So I fabricated a new one with this hole being further out. See the difference? Now, my switch can be stored right here, or I can undo the wing nut and I can hold on to the switch. Which, I don't know why. They give you a red power here. I'll have to figure that one out. There's a keyway in here, which will match the keyway inside this. Next, these are the battery connection ends. The shoe goo is not being used as an insulator, even though it is like a liquid rubber. It's to glue these plastic pieces on here so they don't come off. They're cheap. Bottom line, they're cheap, so if I glue them on to stay on, that'll be good. This is split wire tubing. Split meaning split like so. Well, we're done. So now you see how it's mounted onto the hitch. So now this can go into a 2-inch receiver on any UTV, ATV, pickup truck, whatever. It's now a recovery winch. Just what I wanted is to be able to put this in any hitch, even like my Subaru. Power, just off a battery. Wiring is kind of funky, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a few of these rubber boots, 4. I'm going to redo each one here and have a rubber boot over the top, because there is no cap to cover this, protect it. You know, it won't take much to get something to go across these two or these two here to short circuit it or something, which I want to avoid. I mean, I can cover this up with something called liquid tape. It comes in black and comes in clear, and you just paint it all on. It's electrical tape, but in a liquid form, and it hardens right on there. But I think the rubber boot, if I can find them maybe at an automotive store, I'm going to do that. As for this wire, remember this would be attached to the handlebar. So I guess somewhere on your ATV or UTV, you need to find a 12-volt live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect a red wire and run it the full length all the way to here to where it's connected, and from here I'm going to just run it onto the battery plus. The motor will not run if it's on motor plus. It has to be on the battery side. So overall, this was a pain in the ass. This was so much more difficult. It's just not a good day for me. Getting this thing, holes not all lined up properly, drill bits are not working. And some of them I have to replace some of the drill bits now from other projects I'm working on. So I've dulled the bits down. But a lot of it was just alignment problems I was having with this, with the holes that I pre-drilled. And tight tolerances, that's what makes something like this difficult. You're working with such a small item and you get very little to no room to make mistakes. And when you're putting together, would I buy it again? Yeah, it's a hell of a lot lighter than what I got. It's not 98 pounds like this beast. This is an 8,000 pound winch. That's 98 pounds like I showed you in the beginning of the video. That's a frickin' backbreaker. But this one here, I think total weight is like 15 pounds. At that? You know what? Let's put it on the scale and find out. How about that? $26.68 pounds is the total weight of this. One thing that really adds to the weight is the hitch and a plate. That's definitely a few pounds there, but so as I was saying, this was not an easy one. It just not a good day at all, but it's done. That's how it goes together. It is made in China. I wanted an American made one. My assumptions is if I bought American made, it probably would come with instructions. So this I kind of stumbled my way through trying to figure it out, and that's it. you got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them for this winch. But I have to assume that the winch from Harbor Freight is probably the similar setup as this one, because that's also made in China, and there are similarities between the two, just that the labeling is different. But that's it. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Don't forget to subscribe. Any questions, rifle them below. Any comments, I'm open for comments on this one. So have a nice night. Overall time this took me was, I'd have to say, probably 4 hours without the interruptions I've had. And yeah, just 4 hours of work, drilling, lots of drilling, lots of reaming to get this thing to work, to fit. All right, take care everyone, and happy holidays.